And when people were ready to ball me up and throw me away, that I would be no good, I would be, like my mom, which by the way is an amazing person today, saved, loving, kind, walks people through death. I mean, she couldn't have done what she does today without her own experience. But when I tell you, that to me was even more of a reason that I knew that I know what I am called in a sense to do. And the authority and power, not that I am so great, but God entrusts me to be obedient with the souls that he's called to earth for whatever reason he has for them. It's not for me to question. I don't know what this man was doing before or after in his life. But what I do know is that not only my daughter, police officers, EMT people, the coroner, all of the witnesses that were up on the bridge, all got to see the hand of God work. And I don't know how in that day it ministered to their heart. I don't know in that day how maybe that they walked away from that fence now feeling worthy. Now feeling like there's an opportunity for me. When the world has said that all of these things that are against me, God is for me, and that's all I need. Because the world said it was over. But God said it is not over. So the thing about it is that that's how we have to look in a sense at our life. So for me, these are huge, massive, pivotal moments in my life that I know that I know that I know that I know. I got my own death stories. You know what I'm saying? But in a sense, for God to take someone who came from my background, who experienced the things that I had experienced, who had even done some of the things that I had done, for God to say that I can use you if you let me. I could use you in the areas of the earth. I could use you for a greater victory. I can use you for a plan and purpose you know nothing about. You just have to be available and say yes. You have to be able to walk in obedience. You can't worry about what the world thinks of you, because let's be honest, when you have gone through some of the things we've gone through, we're embarrassed. There's shame that's on us. We got to wash that dirty stuff
Cut
off
it
of
off,
us,
baby.
Teresa,
Let it go.
so that we can be available. Because had I been worried, had you caught me 5, 6 years ago, prior to that, I might have been a little bit more hesitant. I might have been trying to look at myself. It was never about me. It was what God could use through me. Somebody who was willing to say yes. Somebody who was willing to not care about their own health, right? Like, again, we don't know what this man had, but it didn't matter. And nothing's happened to me. God has kept me. And my hope and prayer is that even for your viewers, that they will understand that when it is a time in a sense that God is going to use you in particular things if you're available, but the enemy is going to do everything to tell you why you can't. You're not a minister. You didn't go to seminary school. You're not. And I'm thinking to myself, well, dag, who did? Paul didn't.
That's right.
Joseph didn't.
That's right.
David didn't. David wasn't even from a king lineage. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you think that's who God is calling, ordinary people who are willing to say yes. He is calling people that he's built tenacity and resilience and truth of his word in their heart because of their own experiences. That's what he's calling. He's not calling just these people who come, not knocking the PK kids and all of the things, but we have a sense of thinking that this is who God's using, but he's not. He is using everyday, ordinary people who have gone through experiences that we are bridging the gap. We're bridging the pain. The Holy Spirit is using our stuff to help people bridge that, but also to clean up, to help you understand that you are not your story. Your story is a part of your building and preparation for your purpose. That's what it is. And the quicker we can get to that, the faster we're willing to understand that and not look through the lens of shame, blame, unworthiness, right? Not trying to look for significance and success the way the world does. The quicker we can be used and the quicker we'll catapult to a level of peace and understanding and grace in the presence of God that we have never experienced in our life. So that for me, these many, many stories that are sprinkled throughout my whole 48 years are things that are clear indications that God's hand is on me. But it also means that I have a high level of responsibility.
Yeah.
And it can be very lonely. It could be very lonely and it can be very challenging.
Yeah.
Because sometimes not everybody understands it. And when God pulls you or sets you apart for certain things where you have to be consecrated, or it doesn't make you better. I'm not better than anyone, but I know that I can't be distracted by the world because I have to hear from the voice of the Lord to fulfill what he's called me to do. And it's not an easy job
Well,
ever.
and I don't know how it evolved with you, as it evolves with all of us, a calling, our understanding of what our purpose is, or if we ever really fully understand it, but just, it's baby steps into, okay, this is purposeful. What's the next step and what's the next step? But I just look at the trajectory of your life, and what you so humbly leave out of your story is, yes, you've had all these experiences. You've learned to teach and preach and lay hands on people, and you've built this amazing family. But at the same time, I think it's important for our listeners to know that that little girl who was, in the inner city streets hustling people to go to vacation Bible school so she could get a Barbie, used that same hustle to start so many businesses and to start, you know, this huge company that you have today, investing, growing businesses, and then, you have a son, Jaden.
Hmm.
And at 3 years old, take me from there.
So Jaden was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. Interesting enough, just like the many things in my life, God has used them as training ground. And autism would have never been a space that I believe that I would have supported or been involved in. And when I say support, let me say it this way. There was someone actually in church who attempted to approach me to talk to me about their kiddo that was on the spectrum. And it was a point in time in my life where I will say professionally, I felt like it was about me. It's never been about me, but
Hmm.
if I'm being honest, in that time, I
Yeah,
got a little wind underneath my
I
wings.
did
Life is
that.
a little
I did
great and
it.
grand right now, right? Like, so, the thing was, I finally felt like I was moving in a space where I was reactive or proactive and not reactive,
Hmm.
right? And there wasn't all of these up and down. I finally found my rhythm. Okay. And so, this lady attempted to come to me. She knew that I was in the business space. She knew that I had a variety of relationships in a lot of spaces and entertainment and all of that. And so she was trying to bring awareness to autism. And she approached me at church, and I found the time to meet with her, but my heart wasn't in it. It was like, let me do this. It's the right thing to do. Let me listen to her. I always think about if somebody hadn't listened to me in the business space, where would I be? Because I had different entrepreneurs that God had placed along my path that had given me what an entrepreneur looks like, right? And so I wanted to do these things, and my thought was, let me just write this lady a check. That's really what it's about. She needs some money.
Right.
And I remember her clearly saying, like, the money is good, but I really need somebody to help me get this off the ground. Well, years would pass. I'd get pregnant with Jaden, same church. Her son's now a little bit older. I get pregnant. Uh, of course, I'd give birth to Jaden. I'd have Jaden, and he would be diagnosed with autism. And that was the first or second time in my life that I'd really heard the word. And I'm like, what do I do with this? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was upset. um, I was concerned. I felt, if I'm being honest, that's that scarcity seat right on the
Hmm.
edge again. Here's something major in my life happening. I finally feel like I'm at a particular place, and here's another problem, Lord. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I looked at it very differently. I had to renew my strength,
Hmm.
renew my strength, Lord. That was what that was about, right? And so there were crying moments. I didn't know what my life looked like. My son was nonverbal. There was a lot of things that I knew with doctor's appointments and all of that would happen. It took actually to get an official diagnosis 8 months. So I was living with the kid who was nonverbal, who was in a diaper, and at that time had a lot of behavioral problems because of his being not being verbal. So he couldn't communicate. I want juice. I'm thirsty. Something hurts me. So it was constant crying, or we call him swipe or no swiping. He'd swipe things off of just stuff to try to get our attention. And what I recognized then, which was very hard, okay, Lord, I'm built for this. Why? I have 7 siblings. I'm the oldest of 7. I've had to help. None of them were on the spectrum, but it was difficult managing the things that I had to manage in life at different times in life. It wasn't all at the same time, but I knew that I was built for this. I would I remember, though, being in tears and having levels of sadness. I don't think I was quote unquote depressed, if you will, but I was probably right on the edge,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Sure.
so um, I would go through all of this season. Once Jaden got diagnosed and it took those 8 months, I remember walking to the mailbox. It was like the Green Mile. I got the paperwork and I was walking from the mailbox back to my front door. I was reading 48 pages of medical jargon. On the 48th page, it said diagnosis. Halfway down the page, diagnosis semicolon autism. There was no direction, no next steps, know what to do. I was in a different position than most because of where I lived and my access to resources. Um, and I was actually even told that the area that used to support autism was actually called mental health and mental retardation. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine being a mom, and I'm now this Jaden's my third. So imagine being a mom and having to call a place called mental health and mental retardation. It's not very kind, right?
Mm-mm.
And so, and then all of the thoughts in a sense that come with that. By the way, instrumental in getting the name changed. It is no longer mental, it's no longer called mental retardation. It's Office of Development Disability.
Good for you.
Thank God.
Thank you.
Yes. So the thing is that in all of that, that journey would lead me to not only Jaden's diagnosis, but to be a resource for a lot of families that lacked resources in general. So I would come across people that had similar resources as I did, but were honestly quite challenged by saying that I had a kid on the spectrum.
Right.
There were a lot of marriage difficulties and divorce that came out of that. There were other people who lacked resources, did not have the language or access, did not know how to navigate school systems or get therapies. So I would build the foundation out of that. In that process, I challenged God one time, first, last, and only time I did, and told God I wasn't doing this anymore. That because it was a time in a season I was building the nonprofit, I was focused putting every dollar there, and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me, God. This is hard. People don't really want the help. I had this kind of different attitude in reference to, when somebody's helping you, you got to do your part too, not
Right.
realizing that they're going through emotional distress and all of those things. I knew it, but I felt like they should feel like me. Get up, do something about it. You know what I mean? Like, don't just cry and complain. Don't be a victim. Get up. So I wasn't that harsh, but inside I probably was. But the thing is that in the end, I challenged God. And I remember my son had begun to speak.
Hmm.
And that day he lost everything. It was like he reverted backwards.
Mm.
And I remember falling to my knees and asking the Lord to forgive me and
Mm.
repenting, because I was like, oh my gosh, God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe, like, the moment my son tried to talk to me, he lost all verbal ability in that one day. And God restored him before the night was over after I repented. So I was very clear that God was very clear with me. Oh, no, 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 no. You're going to do, because he had told me early on, take care of my children. I'm going to take care of yours. So, like anything else, just like I was as a kid, I was gung ho. I'm going to hustle everybody up. Everybody's going to learn. I'm going to bring y'all in. We're going to figure it all out, right? Like this time, he's the third. So I'm a lot more successful in life. I had a lot more experiences under my belt. I had a lot more experience in business. I could build an organizational infrastructure with my eyes closed. That was came out of my adversity in life. And so when I built this foundation, that was the intention. And initially, I thought it was just going to help the local community. We end up helping globally.
Yep.
I wrote an Emmy nominated TV show behind it. I've worked with 43 countries on autism. I've talked through laws. I have a very famous show that's out there today that everybody loves. That's around autism. They called me in the very beginning to help navigate them through that particular space and capture the details that they needed to consult them on what the show should look like. And I didn't even have an adult son at that time. I mean, I still had a kid that was walking through his own stuff. Now, Jaden was 3 when I started this nonprofit. I built an NGO
Hmm.
in Africa that's been in existence for 12 years. Our foundation's been around for 15 years, and it's called Jaden's Voice. And interesting enough, I named Jaden his name without knowing the meaning. I picked Jay because his sisters had Jay.
Mm-hmm.
When he was diagnosed, the Holy Spirit said, what does your son's name mean? He was my only kid that I didn't pick like a certain reason. I just picked for Jay. went back and looked at it. In Hebrew, it means God has heard.
Oh.
How about that? So, interesting enough, Jaden now speaks not only English, he knows basic Spanish. He's graduated from high school. He's headed to college. He's had at least 22 offers. He could have gone to a lot of colleges. He graduated with a 3 point, I want to say 3.95
Oh
or
my
higher.
gosh.
He ended with all straight A's. He has played basketball. He's taken every record in track and field. He's beat school records, state records. He had never played an organized sport until he got to high school. Um, he's played soccer, golf, flag football, basketball, esports. If it's been available, he's done it and he's dominated. It's not like he just did it and, oh, he participated. He did it and dominated, or at least highly contributed to all of those areas. And now he's headed to college.
Mm.
And this is all something that, even entering the ninth grade, Jaden was denied. Again, here's another denial. They denied that man life. He was denied every special needs school because they said his deficits were so great that they weren't sure that they could meet them. The one school that accepted him took him in the ninth grade and took him into a certificate program, not a high school program. They were afraid that they could not meet his needs, so they took him into a certificate program just to teach him how to advocate for himself, how to navigate around the kitchen, all of the things. We had prayed. My husband was led to pray for him for 40 days. I was in prayer and I said to the school, I feel like my son can do more. Now that you've had a chance to see him and deal with him and work with him, I'd like for his 10th grade, him to go into neurotypical classes. So he had to catch up on a couple of things. He took online classes in addition to all the sports. He killed it. I mean,
Mm.
he's done, you can see the hand and work and favor of God. Not speaking till he was 7.
Oh my
IQ at the
gosh.
time of 76, it is no longer. Now,
Mm.
how does that change? He's never had brain surgery. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have anything in his body. It has definitely been the hand in favor of God. And I do believe that God answered our prayer out of our obedience to serve others.
Mhm.
And so I will say that again, I don't think anything accidentally happens. Everything is intentional. My story is not going to be everybody's story. Some kids will never speak. But what was pivotal for me was there was a time in Africa I was serving, and I was leading these women, and in Africa and China and Russia and all these variety of countries that I've had an opportunity to work with. I will tell you that the challenge with these children are oftentimes the mothers are killed, they're ostracized out of their communities, the children are killed, and they're buried in
Mm.
the backyard,
Oh.
right? And people also think that they're demonic, right? Because kids that don't speak or they make sounds or they flap their hands or things like that in these countries where they don't have as many resources or understanding, there's a thought that maybe they're demonic or they're possessed children. And so they kill them. Um, God had an intention and plan for that to stop. He sent me to these places to help educate and build infrastructure where people could have access to get help that they needed for their kids and help them understand that he makes no mistakes, that
Mm.
these are his children. And I said the pivotal moment for me was I remember going to all of these places to change Jaden.
Mm.
I remember going to speech therapy and occupational therapy and behavioral therapy or having all these people in my home. And the whole idea was to help Jaden change. But what God was trying to get me to do was to change.
Mm.
It was to accept and expect from God. It was to love unconditionally because it's
Mhm.
easy to say you love something unconditionally or love someone unconditionally, right? Until there's all these different challenges. When I let go of my own expectations and surrendered my son to the Lord and said, he's your son. You love him more than you do. And instead of trying to pray for him to speak or this or this or this and this, I prayed that my heart would change,
Mm.
that I would come in agreement and acceptance with the things that maybe won't change, and understand that God, your will is sovereign anyway. If he never speaks again, I'll serve you. If I have to deal with these behaviors of the rest of his life, you are going to equip me as a mom to manage this and my other children and business and husband and I'm going to do it with both strength and resilience trusting fully in you. My attitude towards the situation, and this goes for anybody listening, I don't care what the situation is, we have to align ourselves that our heart aligns with the will and purpose of God. Because there are going to be some things we're going to pray about is not going to change. We're going to pray for a marriage that's still going to go through a divorce. We're going to pray for a wayward child that just isn't ready to surrender and give their life to God. We're going to pray for some financial breakthroughs that just might not happen. We're going to pray for a business that we want to grow that might end up closing. There are going to be things in our lives that we are going to pray for. And quite honestly, it may not end the way that we expect.
Right.
And does that make God less sovereign? Does that mean his will wasn't done? Does that mean that he's still not God and that he's not on the throne and that we're still not victorious? No. What that means, the enemy wants us to see it that way. So our heart's prayer, we're going to pray for people. Please don't let them die, God. But in the end, God's going to call them home. We have to align our hearts. My prayer was, Father, my heart align with what your will is. Your will be done on earth. Jesus taught us how to pray. On earth as it is in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. Thy will is not our expectations. Thy will is not our agenda. Thy will is not what we desire and what we want, because there's a God who knows more than what we know, who has done, and his thoughts are above our thoughts. His ways are above our ways. We don't understand it. So I had to let go. My expectation was, oh, when I found out I was having a boy, I already said he's going to play football. He's going to be handsome. I named all the different things. And when nothing was like that, do you want it? Teresa, I'm like, girl, I'm surprised I have edges. Do you see me? Like, I would have been plucking out every inch of hair and every eyebrow, okay, because it was so much. But the moment I said, God, you waste nothing. You said that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. This feels like a weapon, and it feels like it's prospering. It feels like it is meant to kill, steal, and destroy my hope, my journey, your intention over my life, my family. It hurt. There were some things that we just don't even have time on this podcast series to go through. But I will tell you, for parents who are walking through this area of their life, this diagnosis of autism, it is not always easy. But what God had to do was realign my heart. And going back to how I started this story, you got to remember that there was a woman who approached me in church.
I know.
And I remember the Holy Spirit saying, I tried to give you this to fix. You denied it. And now I've given it to you to handle. Right? And now that it's in your hand, you have no other choice. You can't run from it. See, I was running from what he called me to do.
Yeah.
And now it became an issue in my hand to handle. And in the end, it would be the thing that would take me around the world to serve people in capacities and ways. And even here in the United States, churches that did not have spaces and places, areas for autistic kids while a mom and dad want to sit in service. You know, now that the children's care could offer services for autism. The stadiums offer places for autism. I mean, there's also sensory friendly and all the language and the stuff. We're way ahead of where we are, but it doesn't make this life a little bit easier. So if any of your viewers are out there and they're listening, specifically, if you have a kiddo that's on the spectrum, you are not alone. And ask God, what is it? You've given me this child. He has blessed you. Because let me explain something to you. You will learn unconditional love. You will understand patience. You will learn to not judge, right? Like, look at people and you're rushing people. What's taking you so long? They process different. They're on, there are things in a sense that God will reveal issue in your heart that you didn't even know that you had. And in addition to that, they will teach you. I didn't teach Jaden anything. Jaden led my heart closer to Christ. I had full dependence, had to, because if not, there was a time that I probably would have drove Jaden and I off a bridge. Okay? I'm being honest, because you don't realize how this child who's constantly crying and has no verbal, right? Spitting, kicking, hitting, all of these things. He is not that child in a sense today. When I see how God, there's a song by Naomi Rain that talks about the evidence of God. Every day I see Jaden, it's the evidence of God. I know what the doctor's report said. I know what the diagnosis said. But I know who he is and what he's doing. So I want to encourage anybody listening. That's not just about autism. That's really about anything in a sense that God has placed in our lives. Pray that your heart's desire aligns with the will of God.
Next week, Terri's advocacy goes global with Jaden's voice.